Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
That OG real dream.
Here we go, guys and girls. Another episode of the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. We're coming at you with the Element today. Badass video, badass podcast. Check out their podcast, The Element, Podbean, iTunes, pretty much anywhere you can find. Facebook, Instagram, kick-ass videos, kick-ass guys. Tyler Jones, that's who we had on tonight. Just a down-to-earth, great guy. Spent 2 hours talking with us. This one went a little longer, but like I said, when the shit gets good, we can't cut it off. You know what I mean?
Props to you for not just shouting Whitetail Legacy off the get-go. That is props to you.
Yeah.
We're jacked up.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, so here we go, man. Let's get right into our partners and get this thing going.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I seen that.
Okay.
So Ingram, we put our bucks on the back burner, and he is starting our bucks. I just got confirmation. I went up there and took a pick of both just the dry racks, no mounts. It's nice to see them. Nice to replay those memories in our heads. Check out Ingram's Outdoor Obsession on Facebook, Instagram. Check out his work. Our bucks will be out soon. We'll be releasing them. Probably when this podcast is released, they should be released. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Should be close, yeah.
ECW. He just told us that he got our custom engraved kids calls done for our grunt tubes.
I love that.
Yeah, so me and homie both got custom grunt tubes engraved with our kid's name and date. So wouldn't it be sweet when they're like 16, 18, they shoot a really nice buck, they grunted it in with a call, we got them, 13,
It says
14 years
2018
ago.
on it,
That'd
Man,
be
that'd be
sick,
I mean, oh, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Just to give it to them, now, but...
let them blow it around, just
Let
tick
you-
the old lady off.
Right.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, just piss the wife off. But, they're probably going to grow out of that phase a little bit. And then, when
You
they're
can put
10,
it up,
12,
give it
10,
back
12,
to 'em.
they'll be like, all right, Dad, I'm ready to go for real.
Mm-hmm.
You give it back to them. You're like, hey, man, you're blowing this when you're 3, 4 years old.
Yeah, you got a lot of practice on this call.
right?
So.
And then, it just comes full circle. I'm going to love that
That's
shit.
going to be sick. All right, man. The VIP, dude, I'm very impressed by the early season bucks hitting the ground with the veteran broadhead, dude. It's been intense this year. He did improve that collar ring. He had some people talking about how it wasn't opening in foam. Got that fixed. Everybody I talked to and heard is super impressed with how it's going now. He will 100% warranty any broadhead that has the old rings. He will send you new rings to replace them.
Right, not even just the performance of the new ring, but the customer service to get your old stuff updated to the new ring has been incredible from what I've seen.
Yeah, shout out to Matt and Cindy, dude. They're baller, as we like to say on this podcast.
You need this fourth arrow?
No.
I'm gonna pass
This
it
is
over
our
to you.
fidget. This is our fidget spinner for the podcast.
By the time
studio.
this comes out, it ain't gonna be here.
Yeah. So it's getting close to season. We're definitely gonna be sending the VIPs. I got my old ones from last year that are still ready to rock.
Yeah,
I'm gonna change the collars out on, and then I got my brand new pack, of course, that I got. And
Right, I've got 2 from last year.
yeah, I got. Yeah.
And then I bought the 3-pack at Walmart.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling 5 deep plus the trash panda killing.
I know I gotta throw a trash pander in there too.
I know. So my quiver is only a 4 arrow, so I'm gonna be rocking 3 deep.
Yeah, all them public coons. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, smoke
them.
them.
I'll be getting a small games license to come
Right.
after them for sure. So
I got to see what's up with the Bobcat. You know, I had them couple encounters last year with them on my piece, so I don't think I'm gonna be hunting too much out there. But man, dude, if that opportunity comes by, how sick would that be?
Yeah, that'd be
legal bobcat in Illinois.
Yeah, and to get it with the
It's like
limited edition diamond guillotine that Matt gave us. Special, special little shout out to Matt there for
$5.50 tag for a bobcat.
Yeah, that's sick. I know Knox County's off limits, so I will not be able to get one this year. But you got a big possibility. Were they up in the buck nest or?
Yeah, that's where the video come from. Actually, 2 of the videos that I got were from the buck nest same day, and then. Later that week, I was over at my shotgun stand, had another one come strolling by. Totally, you walked it a half mile. I mean, way over there.
Yeah, so
way over there.
Definitely check out that, see if they're open this year for bobcat tags.
Yeah.
You can get one of those before they're out. But homie's going to hit you with the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout-out.
So this week on the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout-out, we have James Sizemore, sent in by our good friend Justin Duncan. James was in the U.S. Army, and that's all the info we have.
Thank you, James. We appreciate your service, man. Thanks, Justin, for giving that special shout-out for us. James, we don't know a lot about what you did, but we appreciate it, whether it was 4 years or 40 years.
Right.
All the same. Thanks for doing it for my family, homie family, and the Whitetail Legacy podcast crew. Let's get into scent-lock. Let's talk about the Oz 100. It's right there on your left shoulder.
Oz
there.
100, man.
Yeah, it's been cleaning the room. We had
the studio.
The studio, yeah.
Don't short it.
Yeah. So I love the Oz 100. That's my most utilized scent-lock tool yet because it's off season. I used it in my bathroom a bunch. I was cooking. We're on the diet competition right now, so I've been eating a lot of fish. The old lady hates fish. You don't want to eat it.
Ooh.
After I cook that, I run that thing in my kitchen. It's gone, dude. The smell's gone. And if anybody's ever cooked like a tuna steak or swordfish, I did tuna and swordfish both to switch it up. Swordfish is a lot more like strong tasting fish.
He's got that welder money to be buying swordfish.
It's pretty cheap at Hy-Vee. But anyways, I did that, and I put a little hot sauce, soy sauce mixture in there and really spiced it up. It's great. It was actually real good. I might actually do that next week, the finishing week, because I really shred some pounds when I did that. But yeah, the Oz 100 took that fish smell right out of my whole kitchen. So the Element, man, these are some down home.
I like how he says toward.
Toward, yeah.
Toward. I like that.
He's got that Texas slang.
Right? Toward.
Yeah, hey, check out Tyler and the Tribe. He's touring music right now, traveling in a band, making a new album.
We should have just copy and pasted for him to say that while you just said it right there. Toward.
Yeah. So
I don't even know if we said it right.
Check out the
Toward.
Element, Instagram, Facebook, podcast world, Whitetail DNA blog. He has some stories on there. Check out all that. This guy is super solid. I can't wait to meet his buddy KC or talk to his buddy KC, because with a flow like that, I've said it here. If you do anything, just get on their website and check out this guy's flow. Then you'll be like, oh, yep, that was worth the time. That was definitely worth the time. So then you'll be watching their videos and be like, damn, this is baller. This is where I need to be. So yeah, check them out. We're going to get right into the nitty gritty. Like you said, we're going to try to cut these intros shorter. We hope we did that for you guys. You know how we get. We get a little crazy. We get a little off topic and get sideways. But here we go. Here's the Element coming at you. All right, guys, we got Tyler Jones on from the Element. Man, thanks for coming on. Spend some time with us Illinois boys. I know you're sweating it out down there in Texas.
Yeah, it's muggy. I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for the response, man. I reached out. I really like your podcast and your filming. That the Nameless video, like I was saying, that's one of the top hunts I've seen here, especially this year that have came out, and we'll get into that later, but
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, so we'll start out, just kind of introduce yourself and talk about what the element is a little bit.
Yeah, I am from right here in East Texas, and the element is actually myself and one of my really good friends, KC Smith. And KC's out in Colorado right now hunting elk. Actually, he may be on his way back at some point today.
One thing about KC I wanted to bring up, dude, you need to work on your flow because KC's got you beat. KC's got some banging hair, dude.
I was say, what kind of hairstyle are you rocking? Because it was kind of long in the middle, like in Nameless video.
Yeah, it's kind of a mo faux hawk kind of thing.
Yeah,
I've had that ever since I cut my hair off. So I used to have long hair too.
Did you? Yeah, KC's he's rocking, dude.
Yeah, he is, but he's losing it quickly, so he won't be rocking it too much longer. He'll have to go to the shave cut or something.
The clean cut. All right, man. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, so KC and myself are co-hosts on the show, and it helps to have a friend to help you when you do this stuff, because it's hard to film yourself, and so that's kind of that's what we do. Is we have a digital outdoor brand. We do podcasts, we do film, and I've been doing film for a long time, and just right here in Texas, man. That's kind of the gist on the element.
So you, just like you said there, you do have a podcast and you guys are filming your hunts and stuff, and you're doing a bunch of reviews on products and different this and that. Do you know of very many other people that are doing what you guys are doing? I know, Mark Kenyon on Wired Hunts, films his hunts. Other than that, man, do you know of anybody else doing that?
Mark does that. Mark does a heck of a job too, man. Props to him. Props to him. He, I would say that Mark is a huge influence for a lot of guys that are doing this podcasting thing right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely a pioneer, and does a really professional job. He was on our podcast 2 weeks ago or so. Great guy. But I think there's maybe one or two other brands out there that I can think of off the top of my head that are doing something similar, and it's a tough thing to do it all. But I'm in a special situation right now where I kind of have quite a bit of time to devote to editing videos and film and podcasts and all these different things. I'm definitely blessed to be able to do all that right now.
Yeah, Cody and I obviously listen to Mark, and just like you said, he's a pioneer for this sort of deal we're doing here. And one thing I really enjoyed about Mark on your podcast is getting that different side of him, because on his own show he's throwing out the questions, and nobody really questions him, but it's always nice to be on that other end, kind of like you are right now.
Sure.
You're the interviewer or the interviewee, and you're the one getting questions. So for people who follow your podcast, to be able to maybe listen to this, get a different perspective. You're not the one asking questions, you're giving out the answers. People get a little bit better feel for you,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's weird to talk about yourself sometimes on your own podcast. So yeah, you're 100% right there. And we try to stay away from, I hate to call them generic questions or things that you might have heard about somebody. And you've got some of that with these whitetail experts especially, but we wanted to, when we interviewed Mark, we wanted to have a different perspective. We wanted him to be able to talk about his ideologies and those kind of things. So it was definitely cool to hear all of that,
Yeah, I loved it. I listened to that one. What's funny is, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? I got in the truck with homie at work.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey man, you mind if I play something?" Must have been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like, "Mind if I play something on the radio?" And he's like, "Well, it depends on what it is, And it was a hunting podcast, and he'd never even heard of them before. And I plugged it in. And he's like, "What is this?" I was like, "Oh, this is a hunting podcast." I'm trying to get. It was like November. I was like, I'm trying to get some intel, you know, trying to get
That's right.
get it touched up, and then now he listens to like 12 like I do, you know.
It was probably the most epic one I've ever heard. Mark had some guy on, and he was talking about like in July he doesn't eat onions for the rest of the year. Just something weird.
Crazy.
I was like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah,
but
shoot,
I mean,
that'd be hard. It'd be hard for me, man. A lot of my dishes start with onions, butter, and green peppers. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't go that in
tough.
deep, but that was his tip, man. He was sync control crazy, so.
Yeah, no, he's had some good guys on his show for sure.
So you're talking about being in kind of a unique area where you have free time. So are you a traveling musician? Is that like your trade? Or
It used to be, man. I for 9 years I toured pretty much. That was what I did. I caught a little extra work here and there when I can. And that's what I did. I don't do it anymore. We were playing 110 shows a year or so, and staying really busy, moving all over. And so, that's not really the situation I'm in now. Is more of a situation where I sold my house in February and made decent money on it. And so right now I'm kind of taking an opportunity to kind of set the element on the right path and hopefully, end up making this a career that lasts a long time.
Nice, man. Way to you to freaking go after it, man. Chase the biscuit.
Thanks,
risk it to get the biscuit.
Heck yeah.
I would say my wife doesn't agree with what you just said there, but
yeah, I mean,
they never do.
She might when it turns out good. If it turns out good, she's gonna be like, "Oh
right.
man, I'm so glad you did this."
It's either that.
She's supportive for sure. Yeah, she is. But yeah, it is. I've always been that guy that's chasing a dream, and so it's hard, man. Being an artist or whatever you might call this now, it's hard to chase a dream and struggle through bills and know that you're not going to have enough money coming up this month and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's not always easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What can I ask? What band you played in, or what instrument you played, or?
Well, yeah, I played guitar and sang harmony vocals for the first 5 years coming out of college. The guy that I played with, his name was Clay Wilson. We were the Clay Wilson Band. Clay was on my football team at SMU in Dallas, and I met him through that, obviously, and we started tinkering around in college a little bit. Ended up forming a band, and throughout the last year or so of college, started touring. And did for 5 years and did well. Traveled all over the place. We played House of Blues up there in Chicago near you guys. We got to play Governor Meade's inauguration there in Wyoming. Played the Republican Governors Association National Convention in San Diego, California on the Bayfront.
Nice.
I mean, been all over. It was a lot of really cool things that we got to experience there. And then for a couple of like weird reasons, we ended up kind of disbanding and I started my own gig, and I had already cut an EP in Fort Worth, Texas, a couple of years before this happened, and I started a band with some guys that I met after college when I moved out to Sulphur Springs, Texas, and toured for 4 years with them, and just kind of built on the success and the connections that I had made to that point in the industry. And we're still playing today, and we just don't tour and do 110 dates a year and grind it out all
What's that band called?
That's Tyler and the Tribe.
Tyler and the Tribe. Are you guys are you like Texas Red Dirt country, or what are you guys?
No, we toured in those circles because that was an easy in for us, but and we're more like pop rock. It's got country vibes for sure. We're from Texas, so
yeah.
Like the things, I grew up in a small town here in East Texas. I mean, I'm gonna sing about things that are kind of country, but it's we grew up listening to Nirvana and Foo Fighters and Incubus, bands like that. So we're gonna rock and roll.
Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna definitely check out that, and that's a shameless plug here. Tyler and the Tribe, right?
That's right, man. And I'll send you some links, man, and you can check them out.
Yeah,
we're doing
I love
doing a new
all
album
music.
right now.
I love all music, man. I play guitar. I've played 4 open mics. I'm pretty much
Cool.
garbage. I can't sing, but I can play, and I just have a lot of fun. Homies see me play when I get out here and get to bush lights in me.
Yeah.
So that's
cool,
about the extent of mine. But I figured from Texas, I'm a big.
Homie can't sing?
No.
Oh, I can sing.
Have you heard his voice naturally?
I mean, maybe he might be able to hit them high harmonies.
Yeah,
right. You notice he didn't say low.
Yeah, no. He's got that 12-year-old voice over there.
Right?
It's all good, man.
No.
You want to keep that as long as you can.
Yeah.
Look at Bieber, though. Look at Bieber. I mean, we might have something here, bud.
Our wives give us enough time to do this. If I went in there and said, hey, we're starting a band, I don't know what would happen.
Hey, try starting a band and then a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh,
you might be in trouble.
Yeah, props to your wife, man. She's, like you said, she's supportive. Awesome. That's good.
Well, she knew what she was getting into. We started, it was kind of off and on a little bit, but we started dating when we were 13, so known her a long time. Yeah.
So you were talking about, I heard on one of the podcasts, well, I don't want to give away a lot of the story, but you were sleeping. It was on the Nameless, and you guys were sleeping in your truck, and you were talking about an injury. So that was from the football that you played at SMU?
Yeah, a back injury, I guess.
Yeah, it was. You said it was like the center of your back on the episode, I think.
Yeah, it's an old football injury, man.
So you played at SMU all through college then? 4
years, yep. I played 06 through 09, and I was a free safety there, so got to play with. I don't know, if you guys follow football or some of your listeners might.
I do.
But got to play with Emmanuel Sanders was a receiver that came out the same year I graduated. Cole Beasley plays for the Cowboys, little slot receiver. Play with him. Last year there were 6 guys from my team that were on the Saints at the same time, so. It was I got to have quite the experience there. I finished out my career playing in the Hawaii and the Nevada Wolfpack, and we smoked them 45-10. So that was a good thing.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I mean, spent a week in Hawaii because of it, and it's a lot of work, man. To be honest, I didn't even go to my pro day.
What is going on?
I was playing music. And we were picking up steam regionally, so that's what I did. I graduated early, and instead of going to my pro day and doing all these different things, I
chased your dream.
Chased a different dream.
That's badass, man.
Right?
Yeah,
it is.
Except for that, now I'm like, well, if I had some money from playing 5 years in the league, I might be in a different position.
Yeah, all you need is 5 years nowadays.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I know.
You can produce your own stuff, man. Yeah. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I want to ask you about is, it's you and KC. You said you guys are good friends, and obviously I understand the bond that you have with him because it's Cody and I. So I want to hear how you and KC become friends.
That's a funny question, or it's a good question, but it's a funny answer. It's the power of social media. We actually met through Facebook, and basically I went to school with his now brother-in-law, and he was a year younger than me in high school. And I posted a film that I had made with a buddy. We went and did a little trout fishing thing. I like to fly fish, and I like the native trout, the cutthroat species, especially. And so we were doing this Rio Grande cutthroat trout expedition into the Valley Vidal area of New Mexico, which is this awesome, incredible area that was actually I don't remember how many acres it is. It's huge, but it was owned by one of the major gas companies or oil companies, and they had a bunch of taxes that started to accrue that were back taxes, I guess. And then in payment for those taxes, they gave this area away. But anyway, so I posted this video after we got done with that trip, and I edited it all up. And KC's brother-in-law, I believe, tagged him and said, and at the time he wasn't married to Chance's sister, but he said, hey, KC, check this out. So he checked it out. He sent me a message like, hey, dude, that was awesome, man. I really thought that was cool, whatever. So we started talking, and he was like, yeah, I live out on the coast. He lived down in the Gulf, near the Gulf of Mexico on Texas coast, at like 3 feet of elevation, just bumming it around as a bachelor. And
a bachelor with that kind of hair, I'm not buying that.
Hey, that's how remote it is down there. But he was like, well, let's go red fishing sometime. And so we actually never did do the red fishing trip. We haven't done it yet, even though we plan on it. But he moved back up here. And so that's how we started out. And actually, the first time I ever met KC, we met in a Walmart parking lot and went fishing for stripers here in North Texas. And since then, man, we've been good friends. We have a lot of same ideas about things and a lot of the same beliefs. And I mean, how could you not like that guy? He's full of energy. And,
yeah. I just
super selfless and everything else.
I just know him from the podcast, and just from when you finally released a video, it was cool to just see him. You know what I mean? So I could put a face to the to the voice. I was like, man, this guy, I dig him. I got I got this going on. And then I'm like, I could feel like I could just get right along with these two guys. That's why I reached out to you. I'm like, these guys got to be cool. They can't just put so.
Well, I want to say something that we haven't talked about is, how Cody and I met, and I think we're going to do that in here, 5 or so episodes. When we get up to 50, we're just going to kind of hit the rewind button and get into it. But I've been looking for Cody for 24 years, and I found him 4 years ago.
All right.
So,
man, that's a good thing.
I know.
It's good to have a good hunting partner, man. There's nothing like it,
Right? The problem is, he's hunted my place a couple times, and I have yet to hunt a place that he has permission on.
I've hunted his place once, and he sent me to a stand that didn't have a seat on it. And he said, no one's hunted there for a while. I mean, I didn't know a while was like 7 years. I mean, the ladder stand, it had that, it was a chained on there, and it was about... The chain was about 8 inches too big for the tree. So I didn't hunt there. So I walked all the way back to the truck, and I hunted right by the truck, and I seen more deer than all of them. So.
I was saying you'd probably killed a booner if you got in that stand.
Yeah.
You probably missed out on that 7-year-old buck that was coming through there.
I probably did, yeah.
Had him set up sweet, didn't listen to the directions.
I know, man. People don't trust their guides, dude.
Right?
It's terrible.
So, what is your favorite thing about podcasting?
Man, as you guys know, it's a lot of work, but I think that learning from the experts is probably, that could be a consensus for most podcasters probably, but man, just getting to learn from these guys firsthand, and, even off the air, you get to talk to them sometimes and learn even more than what your audience got to learn if they, get to talking. And
we get a lot of that. We get the secret tips that they don't want anybody to know off air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying.
That's the thing. You get to learn. For me, I got to talk to Bill Winke, and I'm a big fan of him. Carl Miller.
Yeah, that's super dope, dude. Bill Winke's he's the boss.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And just super nice guy. Like I said, Carl Miller, we're going to talk to him about deer vision. And Carl's episode, actually, we did that. And right after the QDMA convention, though, we met him at. And the SD card corrupted. And so we lost 4 interviews, basically, including Carl. So he got back on the phone with this super nice guy, man, and did another whole thing, man, a whole spiel about everything deer vision. And those are people that you don't just get to talk to or to learn from very often, especially those professors that know so much about the behaviors of deer and that kind of thing, But I don't know. I mean, one of my favorite things about podcasting would be that, it kind of leads me to these relationships with some of these incredible people. And one that comes to mind is my buddy Garrett Long from Wild Sheep Foundation, who I met in a roundabout way through podcasting, and we've done a podcast since together. But he's a guy that he hunts fishes a little bit, but hunts. But he doesn't just care about killing animals. Like, he cares about landscapes, putting more animals on that landscape, people, which are like the most important thing on planet Earth. And so, like, just a great person and somebody that I share a lot in common with. Like, meeting those types of people through podcasting is definitely a big benefit.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we keep telling everybody. The people we've met. We've made some awesome friends. A lot of the down south guys from Texas, Mississippi, Georgia area. The super solid guys that we've become like really good friends with, and they're like, "Hey, man, you need to come down here and hunt." And we want to get together. I'm like, well, you need to come up here and hunt. So
yeah.
But yeah, eventually we'll make something
Southern
out.
Hospitality, man.
Yeah. Big shout out to Bryant too, because we had the same thing happen. We recorded an episode with him. Computer messed up. We lost the whole thing, man. And he was kind enough to come back on a second time and redo the whole thing. So we've been there before.
And then we lost like the.
Oh man!
So we had there's a hunting team called the Rise, and we had two of them guys on. And we're getting into Alex's story of like
the 170 clean
just
10
giant.
Had like an 1/8 inch deductions,
just huge.
Yeah. He tells the whole story.
And we lost like that segment of the podcast. And I'm like, so I'm doing like the final proofread or proof listen. I'm like, where is the story of the buck at? And it's just gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've lost probably an hour and 40 minutes total since we've been doing this. Luckily, so we've been blessed. We try to back everything up now, and we have a sign in here that says "Save everything."
Yeah,
that way we don't
double
forget.
save. Yeah, double save because
Yeah, I understand, man. It's a sad thing when that happens.
So you said that you get, you're talking to all these big name professionals, and is there what is like if you could say just a few things that you picked up that have like majorly changed the way you hunt because you've been able to listen to these podcasts and do them? Is there anything that comes to mind that you decided to do or changed up that you were doing?
I mean, there are definitely things, and it's hard to put a finger on it. Like we were talking about earlier, we have 85 episodes out right now, like in a series, but we've also done several other bonus episodes and this kind of thing. So, it's hard to like put a thumb on certain things that are just like individual tactics or whatever, and everybody, I understand, like everybody wants to hear like that tip or that tactic that's gonna help them kill deer, but I guess one of the things that is also like super beneficial that is one of my favorite things to have come out of podcasting is just the opportunity to like go and meet people, network with these people. And like one of the opportunities in particular, we got to go to the TRCP, Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership Media Summit the last 2 years. And so like I'm, rubbing shoulders with literally the people that spend a lot of time in DC making and affecting decisions that are made about, like how we hunt deer, how we get to use public land, what public land is available to us. Like huge issues. They're talking to advisors of Trump, this kind of thing, so like that's important. And I think that like one thing I've learned as a big general concept about that would be like considered maybe some kind of a tip or tactic as to like how we kill more deer is that like we've got to put more deer on the landscape in places, like I would say that, hunting in East Texas here is probably harder than where you guys hunt. It's probably harder to see deer and shoot big deer and that kind of thing. It's the same thing as like hunting public rather than hunting private elsewhere around where, like where you guys live. Like you're probably going to see more deer or bigger deer on your private spot. And the reason is because there's more deer there, I mean, that's the thing. So like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like conservation is very important. I know we all want to kill big deer, but, and it's hard to spend time doing extra stuff other than like prepping for these big deer and learning these tips and tactics. But like, if we could put more on the landscape, then we would have a better chance. It's the same thing with like, I think about this, and I was just talking about Garrett Long, my buddy from Wild Sheep Foundation. Their motto is something along the lines of like put and keep sheep on the mountain or something like that. And you think about it, like a sheep tag is like the holy grail. It's harder to draw than anything. If you want to go on a sheep hunt, you can buy it, but you're going to be spending 20 grand to 60 grand or whatever it might be. And you may not can't afford that. And most people can't. I mean, but the one way to like get those sheep prices to decrease and there to be more tags is to put more animals on the landscape, plain and simple,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's like a weird way of answering your question.
No, I think that's a good answer, man. Like, I mean, anything that you can do to help, help the wildlife or help, even going to like a QDMA meeting or something and getting involved in that. I mean, it seems small, but you might be helping out at a benefit or something, or you might be able to help out at, a youth event that they're doing. But then that makes other people think, well, maybe I could do, they go to the youth event, maybe I could do something to help too, I think that's a good answer. Mean, that's what you've gained. You've talked to a lot of people, and I know that's how a lot of your podcasts are, and that's why I like them, because I think everybody not everybody, I'm not going to say that, but most people that hunt these animals actually care for these animals, and we want our kids to be able to hunt them and our grandkids, and we want to teach them, and we want to show them what it's about. And if they're not here, we're not going to be able to do that. So
yeah, that's right, man. And we're only getting more people on the earth, and that's a good thing in many ways, but it's hard on wildlife for sure.
It's funny. I was just saying this to homie, like before we came to this. He was driving to my house to the studio here, and I was like, I'm going to stop at the gas station, and grab some cold ones. It's Friday after work, we're about ready to podcast. And I call him and automatically start talking about hunting. That's what we do, or deer or whatever. And I was just like, we work in a construction field. We both work on the railroad, so it's like, I mean, we don't have any preppy guys out there. No city guys out there even where we work, and none of them hunt. Like some of them hunt, but they don't hunt like us. And that's exactly what I told him. I was like, people just like I show people trail cam pics. They're like, oh, it's baseball season. I'm like, I can't get jacked up about that, man.
Yeah,
so
I understand, man.
Yeah,
that's a good opportunity for you to witness to them, though, about that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Show them like there's, like you have to show them that there's more than just killing the animal. Like it's the experience and everything else.
It's the camaraderie, man. Because like I said,
that too. And
yeah,
that's right, man. I mean, I'm the committee chairman here in my little town for the Ducks Unlimited. For our Ducks Unlimited chapter, and it doesn't involve that much. Like I don't spend that much time per year on this thing. I mean, and it's one way that, and I go duck hunting one time a year now, pretty much once or twice a year. I don't get to go like I used to, man. And I used to eat it up, and it's just one of those things where I like waterfowl, man. Like if I'm out deer hunting and there's wood ducks slumming around on the little slough behind the stand or whatever. I mean, like that's a part of that experience that I enjoy as much as seeing deer, walk around. So
for sure.
So, I think getting involved like that, man, it doesn't take much time really. Like I said, I mean, I meet with my area chairman, maybe like twice a year to do something. And it takes all of an hour or two for both times. And then we do like an event, for our city that I have about 6 to 8 hours in. That's it, man, all year. And I'm the committee chairman. Like I lead this little town in Ducks Unlimited. It's not, it's not very much involved in it. So like I would suggest people to do that. And there's, like you said, QDMA. I know you guys have a Whitetail Hunt podcast. So that's, they're fighting for all kinds of legislation. They're working, with the NDA, National Deer Alliance, and they're all helping each other, TRCP, and they're working against CWD. I know I'm throwing out a bunch of these, but right now, chronic wasting disease, and different diseases that affect deer herds across the country that eventually will affect hunter numbers, because if we don't have opportunities, I told KC this once, and I still believe this, but if I was not like crazy about hunting and I spent a day or two or a weekend, say, on public land here in Texas, I would not hunt anymore. We don't, if we see a doe family group come through on public here, it's a good day. We don't always see deer here. And so it's, I look at it like, man, if I was a new hunter and I was like, I don't really have a spot to go, I'm going to go to public, and then I spent a weekend out there and didn't see anything, I would stop hunting, plain and simple. And so you look at that and think about that, and our hunter numbers could decline really easily, and they are declining right now. So not to like make this a doom and gloom podcast or anything, but man, we need to put more deer on the landscape, because it benefits us too. If we go out there and we see 40 deer in a night, we're gonna have a lot better time than if we see 2.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. That, like you're saying, we had the opportunity this year and this winter and this coming year, we picked up a new piece of property, and we're going to be able to do some of that management, and it's pretty cool, like you said, about the ducks. This is a pheasant habitat, so we've already seen a couple pheasants on it, which I've never hunted pheasant, never shot a pheasant. I just think they're beautiful. They're super cool birds,
They fly straighter than a dove. I know that.
Yeah. But yeah, we mowed some fire breaks, and we're gonna do some burning on this property, and we're gonna plant some food plots next year for the for the pheasants. But it's it's gonna help the deer, obviously too. But we're gonna do some low browse for the birds in the winter, So I'm excited to be able to actually do that, and then we're also going to do some doe management on this property, because it hasn't been hunted in at least 4 or 5 years that we know of for sure, by the neighbors and by the guy that told us, or that owns the property, and it has a lot of does on it. So we're gonna take a few does off, take some for the owner, take some for our families, and hopefully make that a better place for pheasants and deer alike, So
sure. Yeah, and that kind of like brings another point to mind, and I guess we're still kind of on this question of like tips and tactics. Shooting does, man, is a great way to like get the jitters out when a buck comes in. Like if you shot a doe or a couple does, earlier in the year, and that big buck comes in, it's a little easier to steady your pin on him.
Yeah, you got those. You got all that pumpness out of you,
Yeah.
Did I not just tell you that 2 hours ago?
Yeah, homie said that exact thing. He's like, I'm ready to. He's wanting some meat. He's low on meat. He didn't have a stellar year last year.
I'm not saying I was too much trophy hunting, but I had a couple opportunities. I had a couple does last year. I did get one down with a bow, and we ate right through that, because the year before that I took meat to the locker, and then a whole situation went down, and I ended up with getting no meat. So then last year got one down, and then late shotgun season, I just had a couple of small does come by, and I let them go, because one, it was like 4 degrees, and 2, it was just going to be more work than what it was worth. Really. So I'd passed them, and
now he's wishing he wouldn't.
And here we are. I wish I would have shot one, I guess. Yeah. But still, I'd be in the same boat now, even if I shot one.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to take the 30 pounds of meat from me.
I knew that was coming.
No, I shot 2 does and a 6.5-year-old buck last year, so I got so much meat, man.
Are you sure it was 6.5?
Yeah, we got you guys haters on your guys' end, man. I don't know what it is.
We've had a few here and there, but
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love it. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah. I've had more haters in the music industry.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
I bet that is.
Yeah, that's I've got stories upon stories for that kind of thing. So
people don't like when you're trying to make something, man. They get upset.
What? it's I don't know. It's tough for me. Especially like last couple of years that I was touring hard, I really promoted because I was the leader of the band, so I had the opportunity to kind of on social and to kind of spread this message. But I really promoted like spreading love and not hate. I know it sounds super. I don't know. It doesn't sound like a manly thing or anything.
No,
but,
I love it.
I mean, honestly, man, there's so much hate in this world, and especially on social media. Like, it's so easy to go hate on somebody when you're kind of like a faceless person on the internet. And so,
keyboard warrior.
I think if you spend that time lifting up something that you do like, this world's gonna be a way better place if you instead of
ask how many times I've told homie uncomfortably that I love him. Like, I mean, he's probably just text me back, I love you too, just to make me feel good. But I'm all about that, man. Yeah,
that's good, man. That's how musicians are, man. Like, playing with all these bands and stuff, you may see them every couple months, you may play a couple shows with them a month, or you may see them once a year, and like everybody you've played with, you go up, you give them a hug, you tell them you love them. That's the music community, man.
Yeah.
So it's cool because it's different. I grew up hunting and fishing, and here in East Texas and playing football, and so all those are like manly man things to do, and you're not supposed to have a ton of emotion and this kind of thing or whatever, and when I got kind of through college football and started touring really heavy, I got to really learn a lot about like people that are great people that don't necessarily act like the people I grew up around that are, working in the hay-fields or playing football or hunting and fishing and that kind of thing. It's a different community, but I learned a lot about just like how to address people and how to just be a like selfless and caring person, so kind of a cool thing to get to experience a different world than what I had grown up in.
Yeah, we try to kill everybody with kindness.
Yeah, that's what I tell them.
Yeah.
Just kill them with kindness, man. Just
but going back to what we were talking about before we got off on that super tangent, Cody did a card pull, a couple card pulls on public, and it's a weird piece of public, and I don't have the opportunity to hunt it this year. But Cody called me, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm going in, pulling cams on public. Here we go." He walks up to the first cam, and he's thinking that this is not going to be like his stellar spot. I mean, giants. What do you got? 3 giants on there? Mm-hmm. 3 or 2 giants?
Yeah.
And we talked about that for 45 minutes. Like, I don't even have the opportunity, but I'm pumped up for him to have the opportunity and, hopefully be in the tree with him when it goes down and get it on film. So, you got to be not so self-centered when it comes to, everything.
It's hard to do, man. I mean, honestly, like, all these brands are out there putting out huge deer, and, like, it's hard not to want that, and especially, like, I find, and I'm sure, like, I'll look back in 10 years and it'll be much different still, but I find that, like, I am jealous less today than I was 5-10 years ago, or growing up or whatever, of people shooting things, or
Yeah, same here. I used to be at that time where, I only shot a couple nice bucks, and I was like, I'm putting in a lot of work. What's going on here? And now, like, I told homie, I'm just, like, I'm jacked for everybody, that's where I'm at right now. I like it when people, if you say you're out there hunting for me or whatever, if you're successful and you're stoked about it, I'm happy. Right. If you shoot a 2.5-year-old and that's your thing, we got good friends that are like, man, if a 100-inch buck comes out, I'm jacked. I'm like, I see 30 of those a year, you know what I mean? But if that's what gets you jacked, I'm freaking jacked for you, because that's what hunting's about. It's just about, and that's what like you said, over the years, it's become less about me and more about, like I just showed homie my best set, like just a couple days ago. Like, here it is. Just in case you come out here and hunt when I'm not here, my best set in November.
That was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't let them fool you. It's about friendship, and it's about building a connection like through this podcast, and like you said, the older I get, the more I realize that there's a lot more out there than just shooting a giant deer. Everybody wants to do that, but it's so much. It's just like I'm the guy's house in town where when people shoot giant deer, they bring them here, and like I don't care what time it is. If it's 1 a.m. when they find them, I get up and go outside and look at them. That's just what I do. And I'd like that they know if they bring it here, they're not going to get criticized if they shot it. I'm just going to be stoked.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Is that because you cape their heads out too?
No, they. I got a garage that is nice enough to clean deer in, but not nice enough to worry about if it got dirty or not.
Sweet.
So that's why I get to use, and that I always have the buddy heaters and stuff running and try to keep it fairly warm in there, so people bring them in.
And the beer fridge.
Yeah, and the beer fridge. It's always tough. That probably has like 90% of what it is.
Yeah. Let's get down to why it's really happening here.
The beer fridge is always stocked at my house, and I'm not a greedy beer drinker. If I'm drinking, someone else is drinking with me. So
I hear you.
That's probably why they're coming here.
You think I'm showing up for this podcast every week because I like podcasting?
Yeah.
He's here for the free beer.
Yes.
It's finally coming out.
Yes.
In the number one spot.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back to some hunt stuff. We've been having a lot of fun here. Do you guys do a lot of traveling to hunt and hunt in public? So, what if you had any traveling to hunt like tips or different tactics? I know me and homie want to go out and kind of do what you did last year, where you're sleeping out of your truck and stuff like that. What is just some tips that you could tell us that might make that trip better? More comfortable, more successful.
I was going to say, this is not tips for our listeners. This is tips for Cody and
I. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's kind of like you were saying with your friends that get jacked up about a 2.5-year-old. It's all about the experience that you want, So that would be the first thing that you guys would probably want to set is like, what do I want out of this? Do I want to shoot a deer? Or do I want to shoot a buck? Or do I want to shoot a 3-year-old buck or a 5-year-old buck? Or is there a size that I want to shoot? Or what is it? Or do I want to hunt deer in the open country where I can see them? Or do I want to hunt the big woods because I think that's neat? You gotta kind of like figure out what you want, I think, and make sure that you set your expectations for whatever experience that you want going in. That way you're not just like sitting in the stand when a 2 or 3-year-old buck comes in, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, you're trying to make decisions in the moment when. Yeah,
right.
I get that's a rock solid tip, because we really hadn't talked about what we're going out there for, And in my mind, if I'm going out on like that, if it's on the edge, I'm gonna be like, it's going down. But that's kind of, and like he's a little more picky than I am. Yeah, like I told homie, it's for me. Just to like go do something like that, the hunting is that's what we want to go for, right?
It's gonna be secondary,
but it's like it's the drive out there, it's seeing stuff, it's hanging out with homie for 4 or 5 days straight. It's let's get back to the truck and crack some cold ones and talk about our plan for the next day. And you're just so absorbed in hunting, and you're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about what the boss told you to do tomorrow. You're just thinking about how are we gonna make this happen? And that's what I want to do. That's
that's it, and that's why we travel so much. I mean, we go to the Rockies a lot because you can kind of get that like Western experience without spending several hundred or $1,000 on a tag. You get to go. We fly fish, and so we're hunting fish in small streams for the most part. And we get that same experience, and not to mention it's good practice for learning to truck camp when you go on a whitetail trip. And so you get to work on your system and everything. And I would say traveling together is a big thing. You guys are doing that. It's a good thing because you're going to get the entertainment. You're going to get those fun things that happen that you both get to experience. You'll have stories that you can tell together. But then you get to split gas, so it's more economical.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And this is part of your expectations. Do you want a truck camp, or do you want to stay in a hotel?
I want a truck camp. Yeah, we want a truck camp.
And that's the thing. That's it's not that comfortable a lot of
Oh
times.
no, yeah.
You know, so like if you want comfort and you make good money, I would say stay in a hotel. You know, like when I go with my dad, we stay in a hotel just because he's going to pay for it, and I'm fine with that. You know?
Heck yeah.
And so we're going to watch football on TV, you know, and basketball and eat chips and salsa or whatever.
Oh
so,
man.
you know, but like when
Chips and
Casey and
salsa.
I go, we're a couple of, you know, young cats that are, you know, trying to justify this trip to our wives or whatever. You know, we're trying to cut costs everywhere, and so we're you know, we're truck camping, and I think that like preparing food before, making sure that you take like hard fruits like apples and those kind of things that don't get smushed in backpacks and that kind of thing, so you know that you've got like good quality food to eat, so that you're not, because when you're truck camping, like you're going to wake up and your eyes are going to be puffy for a long time. Like you're going to be tired, and you need to not eat junk food the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I actually wrote an article about this, that's on Whitetail DNA blog. Alex posted it, I think a month or so ago, but it's all about travel. And I talked about different things like this. You know, you want to, like, we make deer soup a lot, and cause it's easy. You throw a bunch of stuff in there. It's good for you. And you can eat it with saltines, and you can heat it up in the back of a truck bed with a pocket rocket and some butane and skillet, you know. So yeah.
What is the ingredients of this deer soup?
Man, I like to cook, so I can't really tell you. It's different every time, but I'll let me run through a few of them, I guess. Yeah, deer would be a key ingredient, I think.
Right.
I like to put potatoes in there, just dice them up. Onions. I like celery in mine. Some people don't. Lots of tomatoes. I put usually some kind of like chicken bouillon in there, and carrots. A lot of times, it's usually like whatever I have that's going to go bad in the next week in the fridge. You know.
Yeah, I'm in on it. That sounds great to me.
That's kind of the way I live. You know, I try to just be as economical and frugal as possible, and then. We usually put like a can of tomato paste or a couple of cans of like Rotel, because I like spicy stuff.
Yeah.
So you can put that in there, and then
man, I ain't had supper yet.
Oh, no.
Might have to push the pause button, go get a hot pocket, come back.
There you go. So the way I normally do it is I brown the meat I put butter and onions in there, let them kind of caramelize just a little bit, brown the meat, and then add everything else in. And usually like 6 to 8 cups of water or whatever, I cover it. And then red wine vinaigrette is the key ingredient. So yeah, that's kind of the recipe. And man, like I said, you can carry a huge Tupperware thing of it with you in the ice chest, and you just pull it out. We got a skillet, you know, you throw the skillet on top of your isobutane and your pocket rocket or whatever you got to warm things up, and you're eating good for like several days, you know.
Heck yeah, so and cheap too, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheap. That's works,
definitely
you know?
That's definitely I it was late. It was about 9:00 at night, but I was talking to my wife and I said, hey, what do you think about me using some of my vacation next year to go on, you know, a whitetail hunt out of state? And I go to Missouri a lot. You know, I got family ground down there. My grandpa's ground down there. It's southern Missouri. You know, if a 130 walks out, it's probably getting it, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that I go down there for rifle season because it's just kind of like a family deal, you know. Me and my grandpa go out, opening morning rifle season. You know, we've been doing it for a long time. Get to visit with my grandma, and she cooks baller food, man. It's just...
Grandmas tend to do that.
She's late 60s, and she'll put a pork loin on the smoker and smoke it all day, and then finish it off with some homemade applesauce, and just oh man, dude, it's incredible. But anyways, yeah. So I go down there, but I told her it was like I said, it was late. It's about 9, but she's like, yeah, you could probably do that, you know. So I was like, oh, I got the okay. So I'm not gonna ask.
Sweet.
I'm just gonna plan it. And they'd be like, this is when I'm going to be gone.
Yeah.
So like you said.
Here's the deal, dude, is like y'all live there in Illinois. It's kind of hard to leave that state, I would think, you know, and find much better hunting. So, you know, I understand. And that's one thing. and that's, I mean, but like you said, it's all about what you want out of the experience. So if you want to go visit new country and adventure, which is what I like to do, then yeah, you're going to want to get out of state, but you also at the same time have to set your expectations that like a 130, if you were to come down here and hunt with us, we've been running trail cameras almost nonstop for 2.5 years or so on public land here in Texas, in the eastern half of Texas, and I could count on one hand the number of 130s we have on camera. I mean,
yeah.
So it's just, that's just, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel sorry for us, because dude, I'm telling you what, if I see a 3 or 4 year old deer this year and I shoot him, it's going to be like the most hard earned, most pump sesh deer that I've ever had. You know, like I'm just going to be so excited, man.
I'm ready to see it.
So,
ready to see it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing is, like, you got to know like where you're going. Try to find out what a good deer is relative to that area.
Yeah, to me, like
good as Illinois stuff. You know?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's no way like we could go out there and expect, because we've been watching guys on Instagram and Facebook, which that's what, and the early season stuff is what we want to do. You know, we're sitting back here just jonesing to go. You know, because I already missed some of the rut to go down to Missouri during rifle season. So I don't want to miss like any more of Illinois deer season. You know what I mean? Like you said, we're centered in a very good place to hunt. We have we're really lucky to have some incredible bucks that I've been chasing for years on trail camera. You know, I mean, just great deer. And we want to get those deer down to bring this story that I've been building for 3 years to life, you know. But that early season stuff, man, that's what we want. We want, when we're sitting here jonesing to go out, we want to be out like chasing a velvet buck, you know. And I'm telling you what, if a 120's come in velvet, I probably wouldn't pass it out there, especially the first time I went, you know.
Right.
If a buck is gonna get me jacked, but going out there in my mind, I'm thinking I'm not gonna shoot anything. Especially the first or second year. Because we're going out there, we're going blind. You know, we're just rolling in there. A couple of young jokers gonna just be hanging stands and moving and running, doing what we can. You know, but we're gonna be hunting like we're hunting here instead of out there. So it's gonna be completely messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I know, man. I'm with you too. It's hard to sit here and watch these guys hunt the whole month of September for deer and sit around and wait on October. You know, 1st of October for us or whatever, and a lot of states. So it's tough, man. And you know, like I said, KC's on that elk hunt, and my elk hunt kind of fell through. I didn't pick up one of the leftover tags that I was looking for, but so I ended up not going with him this year. They go a long ways, man. I mean, you might as well almost drive to Montana by the time you drive where they're driving. So
I've done that.
You know, yeah. And I was just, you know, I just decided, because I'd been to British Columbia the 2 previous years on a sheep hunt, filming for a guy, and went elk hunting with KC last year. We had several close calls, and our buddy Brennan shot a nice one, and this and that. We had a great time last year, but I thought, man, if I can just stay at home here in September, earn some brownie points. When late October happens, man, it's gonna be on, you know. So I gotta have some patience, and kind of like I talked about earlier, just not let the social media, you know, frenzy like get me into a frenzy. I guess.
For sure.
Know?
What's your plans on travel? Are you gonna travel anywhere this year, or you gonna?
Yeah, we'll probably go back there to Kansas. That's just been a place that I've traditionally hunted for 13 or 14 years now. We had family up there, and so my dad took us all up there, you know, myself and a couple of our buddies, and we started hunting up there, and I've been up there ever since. And it's one of those places that I don't know if I'll ever not hunt there as long as I can, and just because of the memories and the tradition and that kind of thing. And I actually was I think I was like one of like 20 guys that didn't draw the unit I put in for in Iowa this year that had the same number of points as I did. So I was one of the unlucky few. We were planning on doing a trip to Iowa, or probably a couple of trips to Iowa to hunt this year. So I'll be waiting another year on that. And I don't know. We've got a couple other things that we've been eyeing, but we're going to focus really heavy here in Texas, Kansas, and once Casey gets back from Colorado. And I traveled a lot the last couple of years. We just got back from Montana where we did the TRCP summit. So been traveling a lot, just not for deer, and so it kind of, when you get home, you almost don't want to go somewhere for a little bit, but I know when late October gets here, I'm going to be itching to go as many places as I can.
Yeah. I know one thing that we want to hit on here, we're getting deep now.
Yeah.
We want to hit on your hunt for Nameless. Just like Cody was saying, we're trying to get something lined up to get out of our normal pattern. October 1st, we're getting ready, we're getting going. But, just like you said, we're watching these guys the whole month of September. Just, shoot velvet bucks, and then, you got the bloody racked bucks hitting the ground. Then you got bucks, that are starting to transition to their fall patterns. So we're trying to get something lined up. And you went up to North Dakota and made it happen on public ground. So let's get into the story of this Nameless buck here.
Sure. Yeah, this was in Kansas. I'm sorry if that was confusing, but yeah, we were actually in Kansas on this.
Okay.
On the Nameless buck.
And what time of year was this?
This was in the rut, man. I believe the day I shot the deer was on the 10th of November.
So in the video, one thing that I want to know is you seen this buck coming from, in the video you said 500 yards. At what point did you know that this buck was going to end up being 20 yards away?
Man, when he was 33 yards is when I knew he would probably end up at 23.
Right.
Yeah, we, like I said earlier, we've hunted in Kansas, and it's a great state, but I mean, there are places in a lot of states out there. As far as travel goes, like I suggest, go. If you're listening, go and explore, man. There's just so many places. You don't have to go where. I mean, yeah, Illinois is a great state, but don't just go, there because it's traditionally great. Like, do a little research, find somewhere in Nebraska or, North Dakota or whatever where, because there's just some awesome country to explore out there. So that's my little plug for just traveling and especially, public land, but, even knocking on doors and that kind of thing. But yeah, this deer, we had no clue that he was anywhere around. I had been hunting with my dad on some private, like I said, for a long time, and we hunted 2 days or 2 hunts prior, and we had a wind shift that was not going to set up good for my stand location on this other piece of private. So I was like, man, let's go sit some public maybe. And so Casey, of course, had done some map scouting. That's his favorite thing to do. And he had a spot, and he was like, hey, let's check this out. It's like, man, the wind doesn't set up well for it, but let's just go sit and see what we see. We got no other options really here anywhere, and we'll go see what happens. And it's just public spot. If we burn it out, whatever, we'll be back here on private the next day or so. So we ended up hunting. We did a hanging hunt that next morning when the wind shifted in the dark. It was so dark, and I could suggest if you get a chance, don't do hanging hunts in the morning, do them in the evening.
Right.
It's tough, but we ended up actually hanging that morning in the same tree that I shot the deer out of the next morning. Had a great morning, saw deer running everywhere. And then that evening had a shooter in that same area that the Nameless buck came from. He was with a doe, and he just was not going to make it to us by dark, and he was moving. The wind switched right at sunset. It was nuts. The wind switched probably 90 degrees, and it was he was going to pick up our wind if we'd have given it another 5 or 10 minutes. So we only had about 15 minutes of light left. We left, got down and left, and then next morning when we came back, it was cold for us, man. I mean, I'm from Texas, so like y'all were saying 4 degrees earlier. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I saw 4 degrees here. I don't know if it's ever happened. But anyway, it was like low 30s and blowing pretty hard, like 20 miles an hour. So it was just cutting us, not a whole lot of trees to block the wind and that kind of thing. And anyway, we're sitting there at about 8, and I'm just like, kind of had a bad attitude, which KC does a lot of. That's one thing KC does great. He's always got a positive attitude. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, dadgummit, man, we hadn't even seen that many deer, and we'd already seen like 8 deer. I don't even know what I was thinking. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just not sure. I'm starting to make plans for the afternoon, and then I started glassing, and right out there, like 400 or 500 yards, I see horns and in through the CRP and junk, and he's not really coming at us at first. He's kind of going off to our left. He's way out there, and so I'm like, man, there's a good shooter buck out there, but he's a long ways. And so, like, we watch him for a couple minutes, and he kind of turns and starts pretty much walking directly at us. And I'm not thinking anything at this point. Like, there's no way he's coming to us. He's so far away, and it's not like we're in a special spot by any means. Like, we're not even between him and ag or anything. So we definitely, now that I look at it, I understand why he came to us. But anyway, he starts coming at us and then breaks off after about 75 yards and starts heading back to the left. I'm like, yep, typical, and he starts going that way, and then he cuts back in. He's going straight at us again. And he kind of does this little stair step deal until he gets to about probably 200 yards, 250 maybe out. And then he pretty much just starts coming straight at us. And, you can see this all on the film. And, he looks so heavy. I still look back at that moment where he's like 200 yards out, and he's just so heavy looking. And he's coming, and he basically gets to kind of a tree line that we're on. I'd say about 70 yards out, and he cuts back to the left again and cuts into this tree line, and we pretty much lose him for a second. And I'm thinking he's just going to, because we had seen several does go that way, and I'm thinking he's just going to cut their track and head that way. He's just cruising, and he ends up, I can see him start coming through this little brush here and there, and he's like getting closer. He's kind of coming at us. And he comes through this cut in this cottonwood tree and this cedar tree. And at that point, I'm like, man, like, there's a chance. I didn't have a grunt call with me. I might have had a grunt call. I don't remember. I don't think I did, actually. I think KC took it out of my bag for some reason, but didn't have rattling horns or grunt call or anything. So I was thinking I can do a pretty loud snort wheeze with my mouth. And so at this point, I'm thinking if I need that, I might can call him in. Like, he can probably hear me even though it's blowing 20 miles an hour. And he keeps coming. And he basically comes out on the side of this big fat cedar tree that's like 35 yards and sticks his head up in it and starts raking a limb. And he's literally, like, I arrange it, he's at 33 yards. And I had a shot, but there's some grass and stuff in the way. And so, like, to answer your question, that's when I knew he would probably end up at 20 yards because we had a little buck come down almost this exact same trail right there where he rubbed his head and end up in an open spot at about 20 yards. So I just put faith and didn't hurry the shot and take, something that I wasn't comfortable shooting through that grass and stuff. I didn't want to. I'm just like one of my least favorite things about deer hunting is tracking a deer that hasn't been hit good, and especially, like, I've been sitting in a stand where a buddy didn't make a very good shot because he didn't take his time and didn't, shoot at the right time and just kind of let buck fever get the best of him. And I'm like, dadgummit, dude, if you'd have just done this, we could find this deer so easy, and you end up spending miles and miles and miles chasing deer. And so that, like I said, that's one of my least favorite things. So I just decided I'm gonna give him a chance to come closer and open up in this little matted down spot. And he did, man. And I ended up holding the bow for like 45 seconds, and I didn't really ever feel too. I felt comfortable holding it that long. I don't know how much longer I would have been able to hold it, but at 23 yards or whatever, I was not shaking really at all that I worried about it. I put it right where I wanted to. I was probably a little forward of where I needed to be, but when he turned, I had assumed my perception I assumed that he was a little more broadside than he actually was. And it was right in the crease, as we like to say. So
Yeah, it looked perfect to me. He didn't make it very far, did he?
no, he probably ran 110 yards, and he had been dead a long time. We came back. We found him 4 hours later. We went in and got something to eat, and ended up coming back, just giving him some time. And I had a buddy that a couple years before we were filming, and he shot a deer, and it looked good, and there was blood everywhere, and we bumped the deer like an hour after we shot him. And so since then, I just try to do everything very conservatively when it comes to tracking deer,
Yeah, me too. I'm always the guy that wants to wait, and people are like, "You want to wait that long?"
Yeah, you wait an insane amount of time.
Yeah, homie thinks I wait, but I lost a mega giant.
Well, yeah.
Homie
Really?
hasn't lost a mega giant yet. Yeah.
No.
I lost I lost one I got sheds off of from 2 years before, and he was a giant then. So he was in the 180s probably.
Golly. Yeah.
And I jumped him up with two other guys 15 yards away, got 2 shots off him with a bow through the brush. They seen it. They're like, that's the biggest deer we've ever seen on hoof. Had a huge drop tine on him. Just anything that you would ever want in a deer. Mass, character, drop, let him set a long time and jumped him.
Yeah.
And never seen him again. So
Well,
took 4 days off work.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, man. We had, I don't want to get into another long story, but we did a podcast with my buddy I was talking about earlier. And, it's not a 180, but it's probably about upper 130s class 8-point, like a real solid deer. And he shot him, and he was trying to heart shoot, I think. And best I can figure is a lung and single lung and liver hit. But long story short, over the next 30 hours, we chased this deer 7 miles, and he shot at the deer. He got 2 more shots at the deer and hit him once, but it was like above the spine kind of shot, so it didn't do anything at all except for just I hate to be crude about it, but just like shish kebab him, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was not a good deal. And that deer was running 30 hours later. He was still running with, I guess, 1 lung and a punctured liver. I mean, I thought it was a hard shot. When I've watched it back on film several times, there was blood everywhere. And the next day we went in to find this deer after we had bumped him. We went in to find him the next day, and we get on both sides of this creek, and it's pretty thick creek. We can't see each other, cedars and everything. And this deer, I don't have my bow with me because it's not my deer, and it's been 24 hours since we shot him. So he's dead, in my opinion. And he's been sitting there all night in the cold dead, So we start walking this creek, and I get about 150 yards down the creek, and on my side, of course, he jumps up. I hear something. He jumps up at 20 yards and stands there broadside, just hurt, couldn't do anything hardly at all, and kind of jogs up the hill and walks off. And we chase him from that point about 5 miles, and that's where he got 2 more shots. I know it's kind of a long story, but
no, yeah,
that's how. I mean, as far as like tracking and stuff, that's why I'm so hesitant.
I'm the same way, man. I feel you there. I'll say one thing for you and for the listeners: if you spine shoot a deer, put another arrow in it.
Get up?
Yeah. Oh yeah. A doe seen me draw, spooked. I shouldn't have sent it. I sent it anyways. Spined him. Dropped, dead, like lights out. First thing I do, like a dumb shit, grab my phone. I just put a target buck down that I've been hunting for a couple years. Mega giant. I'm looking at the shed right on the table right now.
Sorry,
why do we keep that there?
Sorry, I'm laughing.
We keep this shed that just demoralizes me.
Sick.
Yeah, every year. Got a big split on it. The G2 is just bladed. He's probably like a 140 2 years before I shot him.
Yeah.
That's solid 148, with splits. And I spined him, dropped him 30 yards, done. I'm on the phone, and he starts pawing with his front hoofs and gets up, and I jumped him 12 hours later.
God,
Let him set for 12 hours and jumped him, and now homie's like, why don't you go? If I don't see the deer crash, I do not go look for that deer.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I had never seen or on any video or anything or experienced a spine hit that happens like that. But I think 2 years ago, maybe it was last year, KC shot a decent sized little hog, little boar that we had come through in a group out on public here in Texas, and he was all jumpy too, same thing, and he kind of jumped the string a little bit and spined him, and that sucker goes down squealing just hard, breaks the arrow, and then thinks about it for a second, and then just gets up, takes off running. And I'm like, how does that happen? That's just weird.
That's exactly what happened to mine. It was what? Oh yeah. Sorry, homie's pointing at stuff on the screen, and he's just pre-gaming for the minutes to come. But yeah, I spined him. And he was literally antlers on the ground, like laid out. His face was away from me. He was on his side, laid out. I was like, it's over. I mean, I just accomplished, like, this would probably be the biggest deer I shoot in my lifetime. That's what I'm thinking in those moments, And then the disaster happens.
That's so tough, man.
Because I got another shot at him while he was going away, too, but... Man, I think we could podcast with you for about 3 hours and not ever have a problem. We're about an hour and 12 minutes in here, so go ahead and let the people know where to find you, where to find the Element, and then any other. This is open for shameless plugs all the way around right now.
Cool, man. Yeah, well, I guess I'll start since I kind of started with this, the music stuff. TylerandTheTribe.com. It's tribe, like a tribe of Indians. It's kind of hard to understand Texas when they say those long I's, but that's you can find it. That's kind of the hub for what we do. But it's all I do social media a little bit here and there with that stuff. But since we're not touring, I don't keep up with it a whole lot.
I'm definitely gonna be checking that out. I love music, man. I don't know anybody that likes hunting and doesn't love music. So
that's true. There's a lot of them, and we're working. We just actually, my producer's been sending me clips all day, but we just cut a new album this summer up in Tulsa, and I'm really, really stoked about it. It's been 5 years since we did an album, and this one's just a lot more mature.
Man, you're like living the dream. Concepts. You're like a rock star shooting big deer on public. I mean,
dude, it sounds like it, but man, it's a tough life.
It's
man.
a struggle.
It's a lot of work. It is. I literally pretty much am doing something from the time I get up till about 10 p.m. at night. I'm working on things, and I don't suggest that for a lot of people, really. I mean, I'm not trying to
props
put
for
myself
you,
above
man.
anybody. I'm just saying it's honestly like it. At some point I struggle, I battle like internally with like how much time should I spend with my wife and my kids, my family. How much time should I really be working? And this and that. So.
Yeah, I feel you there. People don't understand how long it takes to make a show, line guest up, produce it, put it out, and then you're doing the filming on top of that, the traveling, and the music on top of that. So that's some next level stuff, So props to you, man.
Well, thank you. That it's fun, man. I'll say that. I wouldn't do any of it if it wasn't fun. For the most part, and film's my passion, and that's where I started doing hunting films. I had a camera. That was the first thing I wanted when I was 13. They asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I said I want a handy cam. I started shooting with that, and since then it's evolved into this higher production value thing. I'm actually, my main gig is a wedding videographer. So I do quite a few, enough weddings, high-end weddings to keep me through the year, to keep me real busy.
Well, I bet you those are pretty solid. The way you told the story of Nameless, I bet you that's a pretty solid film.
Thank you. That's where I learn a lot. That's how I learn a lot of my techniques. I guess is just been shooting for a long time, and I started shooting with some buddies. We started doing the outdoor thing, and we needed extra gear, so we started a wedding films business, and that's kind of how we justified making money and spending it on gear, you know. So
yeah, I don't blame you there, man.
I would say forget telling the wife we're making a band. We're doing wedding parties now.
Yeah, we're doing photography. That's what we're going to tell them. All this film equipment we just bought this year, the $1,000 we spent, that's all for we're photographers now.
Don't lowball us now.
Yeah. So anyway, but so I do that, you know, kind of stuff too, and as far as the Element goes, you know, I think all of our social is at the Element Podcast, or you know, Facebook would be / the Element Podcast. I think they're all set up to that, and you can find our hub for that is theelementwild.com. And so if you want to check anything out, we've got some of our films on there. I think Nameless is on there, and a couple of times and on different pages and stuff. So yeah, you can find pretty much everything you need there. And
I like the short film for Scar too. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah. We didn't have a whole lot. That was the first season that KC and I started filming together, and he got married that year. So we didn't even hardly start filming until late November, really. So we didn't have a whole lot of footage.
I like how you still put it out, though. That props to you guys for putting that out. You know, that's pretty cool. Great buck, and that's how it goes, man. That's real world.
It is real world, man. I was crushed more than he was. I guarantee you. He's got that like eternal positive attitude that I struggle to find sometimes, but
must be the flow.
It was crazy. That deer jumped out of his skin, man.
Yeah, it did. I was like, you slow motion it. I'm like, man, that is insane. But
yeah,
we filmed a doe last year. I had just shot a doe out of the blind, and it was at 40 yards, a little over 40 yards, and she ducked. And then I had a buddy in there, and he shoots a longer axle bow, and he ended up hitting the blind. And I was amazed by how much you could slow that down and see that doe ducking. It was incredible,
man. Yeah, they're a crazy cool animal, you know. And one thing, we had Carl Miller, like I said earlier on the podcast, and he talked about deer vision. They actually process movement at like 4 times the speed of humans. So in other words, like the deer would be seeing that arrow and that bow go off and that arrow coming at them at like 25%, you know. So 4 times slower than what a human can see. So like,
wow,
it raises some questions in your mind about, you know, shooting a deer that are looking at you or whatever. You know,
for sure.
So it's
anything
it's a crazy,
that's alert.
That's
it's
key.
Nuts, man. I'm telling you, that's one of the most intriguing things to me over the last several years has been.
I don't know how I missed that episode on your podcast because I've listened to a ton of them.
Which one?
The one where he had the vision specialist on. What was his name?
Dr. Carl Miller. He's a professor at Georgia.
I'm gonna listen to that one like tomorrow.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's good, man. That's not like a plug for me by any means. Like, I suggest, you know, there's a lot of great info in there, and he's a super nice guy, and he's actually working on some kind of industry type stuff in the future. So you might keep tabs on him as far as what he might have to sell in the future.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, cool dude.
What's the Whitetail DNA? Are you part of that?
I just contributed on his blog, but that's our buddy Alex Comstock. He's you know, for whitetail people out there, he's a blogger. He actually shot a velvet deer this year. We just did what we do, these big buck breakdowns, and when one of our friends shoots a buck, and Alex shot one in velvet, and actually in North Dakota, and cool guy. He's a young cat, but he's really, really knowledgeable, and writes some really cool like short form articles. They're not like too long, and so they're real easy to read and digest. And
does he have a Facebook page?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna follow that. So I'll just search Whitetail DNA, and I definitely want to check out that traveling blog that you did. I think we'll get a ton of detail from that because we're about 95% go on that. You know,
that's good. So. It's awesome. I love traveling, and like I said, I don't know. One thing I kind of talk about in that blog, you know, just to kind of hit on the travel again real briefly. I traveled, like I said, I toured in bands for 9 years, and when you're getting a band going, there's nothing easy about it. It's one of the hardest things to do, and one of the hardest lifestyles to kind of maintain. And I've slept on a lot of floors. I mean, I can remember sleeping on a floor in Nashville at a buddy's house who hadn't been there in a month because he traveled, and waking up with ants crawling all over me on a wood floor, So
your pockets were full of Cheetos, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. No, I have lived. I'm used to living uncomfortably, I guess you could say. Just I have always lived in pretty small and uncomfortable situations, and it doesn't bother me. But if you're not used to that, traveling and trying to do it rough at first might be kind of tough. I mean, you might want to grab a hotel every third day or something like that, so that you can shower up and get a good night's sleep and not be so exhausted the next day. I mean, so
I don't know. We might that might be a good idea. Grab a shower.
I mean, I highly suggest doing that here and there. And I'm a big proponent of like a lot of guys, like, you got to grind it out for 2 weeks and you got to get up every morning and every evening you got to hunt and this and that. And I'm a big proponent for, if you're not having fun and you're starting to get to where you're just like dreading going to the stand and waking up in the morning, like, sleep in for a day,
Yeah.
Because you'll hunt harder the rest of your trip, So,
for sure.
I mean, those are a couple of more little tips, I guess, for traveling. I've been traveling. I mean, we travel to hunt and fish and stuff, but like, I've been traveling for years before that. And
yeah,
I pretty much have lived out of a duffel bag, probably more than I've lived out of a house. So
I've traveled a lot, but it was more of always in a hotel, just working. But yeah, I went out to Idaho and took a trout fishing charter. That is some of the funnest times. And then I did a lot by myself on the Kootenai River out there.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's just absolutely gorgeous down by Libby, Montana and stuff. I actually took a charter, and I was doing some research, and I guess you were talking about cutthroats earlier.
Yeah.
I guess the West Slope cutthroat is kind of a pretty rare fish, and I took a charter to just catch that fish, and I ended up catching 2 of them. And
cool.
One was like 13 or 14 inches, and I don't, I'm not a trout specialist, but he's saying that was a pretty good fish. And I tried to get it a replica made because you're not allowed to take them, because I don't know if they're endangered or they're just protected.
Yeah,
but,
most of the native cutthroats are protected.
Yeah, he was like, I can't even get a mold. They don't even make a mold for that.
Really?
I was like, oh, okay. So I took pictures of the measurements and stuff. I still got them. I actually kept
I bet you could find somebody with a mold, man.
Yeah, I actually kept my Montana fishing license because I was gonna like save that, and I actually had to buy an Idaho week fishing license and then a Montana. But I kept those fishing licenses so I could like put that with a mount to tell the story more. But I wasn't able to get that mounted because he said there wasn't a mold for him. But yeah, I dig the trout fishing, man. It's super cool just to be way out there.
I find a mold for it somewhere, dude. Because I grew up on Lake Fork here in Texas, and if anybody is in the bass fishing world listening right now, they know where it's at. It's world famous largemouth bass fishing lake. And so and my dad has run a fishing lodge for 25 years, and so like I've been around fishing guides and taxidermists and stuff like that, and I mean these guys like they'll find dead fish or like game wardens will bring in a dead fish and they'll give it to a taxidermist so he can make a mold out of it. So I would think somewhere out there's a mold that for looks like a cutthroat or whatever.
It's a West Slope cutthroat trout.
Yeah. And they're going to be similar to several species of cutthroat, so that like all they got to do is paint it like a West Slope,
Yeah, I'd see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess I only asked a couple of taxidermists if that's what they could do, and one's really went into fish, and the other one was big into fish, but he said he couldn't do it. So, but this is Midwest taxidermists, and when someone brings a trout to them, they're probably like, what does this guy want? I've never painted a trout before. I ain't got time for that. So
yeah.
All right, man. Anything else you want to hit with us for website wise, or where they can find you? Or
man, I mean, I think we've pretty much touched on it. I appreciate you guys having me, man.
This has been a blast, man. This has been awesome.
How does it feel to be on the other end of the podcast?
I don't know. It's just a conversation, man. I sometimes you have guests that are hard to talk to and don't carry a conversation very well, and that's kind of the nature of the solo whitetail hunter sometimes. But I think when you get two podcasters together, it's not a bad deal.
No, yeah, we just flow. Right? I kept looking at the time like, man, we're just flowing here. You know, this is no big deal at all. But yeah, just to the listeners, check their stuff out, man. You know, we're really big on, you know, everybody we come on, you know, we want to talk to people we relate, and these two guys, they're just genuine. You know, just a shout out to you. Even your intros are just super genuine. You can tell that you guys are in it for the right reasons. You just want to get a story out, have fun doing it. Big shout out to your buddy. I think me and him would get along real good too. Anybody with that kind of style, I think I could get along with. He just, you know, I feel like me and him. I'm always the like. People were like, "Why are you always happy?" Or "Why are you just?" I'm like, I don't know. That's just who I am. You know, I like giving people shit and having a good time and having fun. You know, I don't know.
In your guys' review of the stealth cam that got flooded with water, like it's a 6-minute video about a trail camera. But your guys' charisma, energy, and everything, it gets you through it. Like, I'm sitting there watching it, I'm just like, man, these guys, like, it's probably hard to just sit there behind a table and talk about a camera that got ruined in a flood. Yeah. But you guys make it entertaining. Yeah, like,
you guys made it
cutting out, and you're just like, you know?
Yeah, it's hard not to have a good time around that KC, man. He's full of energy, and I honestly, you know, throughout the years, I've worked with a lot of people creatively, and I just can't imagine that I would ever have a problem with KC, really. You know, other than the fact that he tends to show up late a lot of times.
he looks kind of like Cody. He looks like he would show up late. He looks.
Yeah, he does. I don't think he's ever been early. That's for sure.
Yeah. He looks like he would show up late. Yeah.
It's funny because he's in Colorado right now, like I said, but. You know, Brennan, we've got a film called Spiked Out. It's from our elk hunt last year. And Brennan was the guy he's real good buzz with KC. He actually killed a bull on that trip that we were all on. And so Brennan was texting me. He's like, man, I wish I was in Colorado with KC right now. Have you heard anything? And I was like, no, I hadn't heard anything. He was supposed to call me yesterday, but he's not always prompt. And Brennan, you know, laughed or whatever and made this, and it's an inside joke. But in the film, we're supposed to leave. We slept on the way up there. We pulled over a truck stop and slept. We were supposed to leave at 6:30, and that's when we were supposed to be pulling out. Well, it's 6:30, and I got video of KC like brushing his teeth, and he's arguing with Brennan, and Brennan's like, "We're supposed to leave at 6:30," and he pulls his phone out and looks at it, and he goes, "It's 6:30 right now. We can leave at 6:30 still." And so we always laugh about it.
Sounds a lot like me, man.
Yeah, he's
we
like,
still got this.
In the car after brushing my teeth, and we're gonna be still leaving at 6:30. I'm just like, man, this dude is never a minute early.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But he's a good dude, man. Good guy to hang out with. I'm sure you guys have a similar relationship, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cody's always late.
I like to call Ryan out all the time.
He was late Sunday going to check trail cams.
I was 5 minutes late.
Okay. All right. Let's check the Snapchat. Yeah. See what time it is.
There you go. Pull it out.
Yep.
I set the time and then I was late. Hey, I don't get to sleep in very often, man. So, all right, we can't thank you enough for coming on, man. This has been a blast.
Sure.
Just the listeners, check his stuff out. You're gonna like it. If you listen to this, his stuff's better than ours, so we guarantee you're gonna like
videos
it. Videos
and podcasts way better.
So check it out, man.